Can Harley Benton do the double cut LP thing? Welcome back to the mix. I'm ABD. Today we're doing a review of the Harley Benton DC Junior type deal. It has one P90 pickup in the bridge. It is a single pickup guitar. It is the only single pickup guitar I've played before, but if you're familiar with Gibson, they make the Les Paul Junior, which is very much this in single cut. Here you have a double cut in Thoman's Pelham Blue. They call it Pelham Blue, and it looks very blue. It's very similar to Gibson's, only it has a lot more sparkle to it, and it's a little deeper blue. I think Gibson's is a little more green, especially when they put the nitro finish on it, it ages and it gets more green. But here, we have a sparkly blue finish. Another thing, unlike Gibson, we have a volute on the back, which in my opinion is a plus. You drop it or knock it over, you're less likely to break the headstock off. Here we have, speaking of the headstock, a Harley Benton style headstock, pretty reminiscent to Gibson. It has a kind of open book style headstock with a truss rod cover with one screw in it, and vintage type machine heads, which are one of the negatives of the guitar. The machine heads, the tuning pegs are not very good. They don't stay in tune that well, but you can replace it for how cheap the guitar is. On the back, it says Kluson Deluxe. So they are actual Kluson tuners, but they don't work that well. The nut is graphite. Here, it's cut very well. The neck is amaranth, or purple heart. It is a darker kind of ebony-looking fretboard, but it doesn't feel exactly like ebony. It's a little softer, kind of like rosewood, but not as soft. The fretwork on this guitar is very good. I just reviewed an SC100, which is an ESP type guitar that they make. If you haven't seen that review, you can find it right here. And that guitar was not in good shape at all. It had a bunch of finish issues, and the frets were not polished very well or leveled very well, and sharp edges on the fretboard. Here, the edges of the frets are a little sharp, not super terrible. The frets themselves are polished pretty well. They feel much less scratchy than other Harley Bentons that I've tried. Some Harley Bentons that you try can be really good and kind of rival much more expensive guitars, and others can be very cheap and set up very poorly. This one, the two guitars that I got, were both set up very poorly. So that's maybe one of the negatives. If you're thinking of getting a Harley Benton, you're usually a beginner, and if you're a beginner, you might not know how to set up the guitar, and you might have to pay more money to do that, and it's not super great. So here, I was lucky enough to know how to set it up, so I brought up the post on the pickup down here, and I set up the bridge. It's a single wraparound bridge. There's no tailpiece down here, and you have two screws here and here to help with intonation if you can't get it all the way with these saddles here. And I had some issue getting the G and the B intonated, so I had to kind of finagle with it, and I still couldn't get the G all the way intonated, so that's a negative point for it. The setup is a negative point for it. The posts on the pickup, like I said, were way too low. If you can see, I raised them a whole bunch out of the pickup there. And so again, you have one pickup. And in this guitar, it's a Roswell pickup. You see Roswell pickups in a number of Harley Benton guitars. They have a deal with them. I believe they have Roswell and Tesla pickups in most of their guitars. Their very cheapest ones, they have Harley Benton branded pickups, which are not very good. But the Roswell pickups, I think, are pretty good. You have one here, and it is a single coil. They make another version of this guitar, which is called Fat. The Fat version, which has a fatter neck, but also has a humbucker in the bridge. It looks like a P90, but it's two coils stacked on top of one another for noise canceling, like a humbucker. So here you have a true single coil pickup, no push-pull or anything like that. A pickguard up here. The body is mahogany, and like we said, the neck is amaranth. The finish, actually, I think is flawless. There's no specks in the actual paint. There's no dents. There's no weirdness. You can kind of see where the bodies, where the two pieces of wood are put together here. You can kind of see a seam line in the paint there, so that's a negative. The backplate here is recessed, and it looks good. And the electronics feel pretty good. They don't feel too cheap. They're not too easy to turn. They feel really nice to turn, actually. So yeah, that's some thoughts on the guitar. Now we can plug it in and hear how it sounds. So on clean, let's make sure it's tuned up. So on a clean setting, here's what you get. So you can kind of notice in certain spots that that G is not intonated correct, like when you're playing a D chord, for example. we try that with a compressor, here's what you get. If we turn on a tube screamer, here's what you get. And then with a rat type distortion, here's what you get. So yeah, the pickups, like I said, are not bad. I actually like Roswell pickups a lot. I think they can compete with much more expensive pickups. And so when you have one pickup, you learn very quickly that you don't have that much control over your tone. You have a volume and a tone. So if you lower the volume, you can kind of get cleaner tones if you're on a more broken up amp. Lower the volume to half. And the volume back up. And then the tone knob. So the tone knob works pretty well. It doesn't get maybe as dark as I would like it to. The volume does what it should. And so as far as how it plays, how it feels to play, and how it sounds, much better than the actual setup and the first impressions. The neck is a C-shaped neck. It's pretty thin. Like I said, the other brother of this guitar is the fat version, and it has a fatter neck. But this one has a pretty thin neck, a 12-inch radius, like Gibson, so you feel right at home there. But what does it sound like with higher gain? You do get a lot of feedback from the single coil pickup. But if we try a higher gain amp, what do you get? So as you can see, not the best pickup for high gain stuff. There's a lot of feedback because it is a single coil. There's no noise canceling. But you know, you're not picking this up for that kind of stuff. You're getting it for the kind of vintage vibe. It's a double cut, and Gibson doesn't really make many of these. The Junior is a cool vibe if you like that single coil tone. It's all about being close to the bridge and the twanginess you get from that position. And so it's cool to have in my collection. There's a Rick Beato signature guitar, if you're familiar with that, which is a pretty similar guitar, only it has a P90 in the neck, and they're not dog ear. It is a pale and blue finish like this, even though it is a matte finish, not a shiny finish. But it kind of fills that void, and it's only 200 smackaroonies. So you can't complain for that price. The pickup, I don't even really feel the need to replace it. And the only thing I'd really need to replace is the tuners. And you can get pretty good tuners for pretty cheap on Amazon today. So what did you think? Let me know in the comments down below. I like it quite a bit. It fills a need if it's the type of guitar that you want in your collection. And I'm definitely going to use it for more clean tones and stuff like that. But for a beginner guitar, I think it's great. It's definitely a lot more positive than the SC1000 that I just reviewed. And again, if you haven't seen that video, you can check it out here. So we had a negative review of a Harley Benton and a pretty positive one. I think the pickups sound great. I think the QC was really good. The only thing that I can really knock it for is the setup being so bad. Again, these are beginner guitars, and if you get one and you can't set it up, and you don't want to pay to get it set up, it's going to be kind of a dud, or you're going to feel like you're not a good guitarist. But you are a good guitarist, and you will be. Keep up with it. So thank you for watching, and like and subscribe below if you enjoyed that, and take care. Bye now.